The 16th of May, uh, Rabbi Fabian substituting for Rabbi Levitt, Daniel.
Yifach Lekates Peirush, which I think is the Malbi Master. I'm not sure why he's saying mine is explaining a little bit more details than what yours has in the English. Is at the time of Ben Cosby, Ben Koziva, they were trying to take off the oil of the Romans from also Gam Min Amaskilim, whoever the Maskilim were, Yikashlu Kamo. Rabbi Akiva was in favor of Ben Koziva, and he thought he was Mashiach. And this is exactly how our pasuk's explaining. In other words, the wise men, for example, Rabbi Akiva, who was Gadol Ador, who was we all know about Rabbi Akiva, who he was, and he was mistaken about this potential Mashiach. Thought he was Mashiach, turned out to be not. And they're saying that the pasuk saying that this is good. This idea is going to Israel will make mistakes on potential Mashiachs. And we had one more recently Shabtai Tzvi, who also I think some of the Gedolim thought he was Mashiach as well. I'm not sure about other ones in history, but maybe we can continue onward with another pasuk. That's the basic idea.
Oh, Lou left. My mic off. There's a fire in the forest behind us, and there are low-flying planes making a lot of noise. So
Oh, I see.
I'll try. And right now, well, the fire is still big, but right now there's maybe they'll just send fire engines. Okay, so this is Pasuk Lamed Vav. It says, Yasar kirtzono hamelech v'yit tromeim v'yit gadel al kol, this is a kale, I guess, the al kale elim v'yidaber niflaot v'hitzliach ad kala Zam ki necharatza ne'esata. Okay, so it's translated. The king will do as he pleases, and he will glorify and exalt himself over every god. So that's not kale, maybe. Okay, and he will utter fantastic things against the God of the mighty. Yet he will succeed until God's fury is terminated, for that which was decreed will have been executed.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes hard to determine what the proper name of Hashem is.
Right. Let me just read this over. V'asa kiritzoino hamelech v'yisroimim v'yisgadel al kol el v'al el elim yedaber niflois v'atzliach ad kala zam ki necheratze v'na'esesa. What are the perush? The beginning of the pasuk, v'asa kiritzaino hamelech. What are the perushim? Because it sounds to me like
okay. Well, let me read what he has here for that. Yasar kirtzono hamelech. The king will do as he pleases. The angel here again skips an entire period As stated before, his objective was not to give a summary of history, but to elaborate on the previous prophecies. This verse refers to chapter 8:23, which says, "At the end of their kingdom, a brazen-faced king, an understander of mysteries, will arise."
Yeah,
This,
Mayor,
yeah,
I think that I have here Mitsuda David says it very clearly. For some reason, I don't know, in the English, I think they give you a lot of information, but it's doesn't somehow concisely give you a good picture.
okay, because there's
The, it
just
says
one.
here, Kaiser Ledavarav, Harishonim Vamar Shemelech Titus. It's referring to Melech Titus, Shiase B'chol Davar Kiritzayin Ve'ein Moiche. Titus was a powerful king who did whatever he wanted.
Ah, okay.
I mean, sometimes for some reason, like, knowing, like, last thing we were talking about was an example was referring to Rabbi Akiva, and here we're referring to Titus. So getting some names and some perspective helps a lot.
Yes, it does.
And he was I mean, it goes on to explain that he was a powerful, extremely powerful, and he was a moishel, we call it, a dictator, that was extremely powerful and did what he wanted, and it's like what he says here in the pasuk. Now read the pasuk again, the English translation of the pasuk.
Okay. Yeah, because our Mitzudas David says it was Titus, and for some reason our commentary refers to Constantine the First. But let me read the pasuk in English again. It says, "The king will do as he pleases, and he will glorify and exalt himself over every god, and he will utter fantastic things against the God of the mighty. Yet he will succeed until God's fury is terminated, for that which was decreed will have been executed."
Meaning that he's a shliach for certain things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
God's decree was executed, meaning what was decreed min hashamayim will happen, and he's going to be a shliach. And then once it's terminated, so he'll finish his position and he'll fall into Neverland. He'll fall off the map.
Oh, okay.
In other words, as we know that there's rulers that rise and rulers that fall,
Mm-hmm.
and nations that rise and nations that fall, and rulers that rise and rulers that fall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see, the difference. The Kadosh Baruch Hu remains forever. And not only does the Kadosh Baruch Hu remain forever, but here we are, thousands of years later, 1,000 years, or more, learning. We have the Rashi and the other Perushim, and they live on forever. The Torah and its Perushim, because it's eternal. It's not like reading a newspaper where they call it here in Israel Kadashot, meaning the new things, but they're old. They're old after a day or two or a week. They're old,
Right.
and they have no relevance anymore forever.
That's true. Wow.
So that takes us toward the end of the pasuk. Tzliach ad kala zam ki nechratza v'naasesa. I'm not sure what that. I'm trying to think. I have a parish from the Mitzudas David. Kasher yihye Naasasa Akrisa Atsuma Az Yemore Avoin. He said the last few words in the Metzudas David are very critical. Az Yemore will become emptied, the Avoin. The sins will have been erased. V'yichle Hazam, and Hashem's anger will have been finished. V'lo yatzliach oid. And this, whoever this ruler is, whether it's Constantine or Titus, it's his once the decree from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. B'etzem, he's just a shliach of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. He has no power to do anything. He thinks he has power, but he'll find that when a Kadosh Baruch Hu decides in 1 minute, his power, he won't be able to lift his hands, or like what happened to Nebuchadnezzar, he turned into an animal for a while. You know, he got on his all fours, he grew hair, whatever. If Kadosh Baruch Hu decides, he can take a person and turn him into an animal or whatever, or he'll just simply die, like in Sancheirov's story, where millions of soldiers died all in one night, or hundreds of millions, or whatever it was. I don't know if hundreds of millions, it was a huge number. Okay, so why don't you read Lamed Zion?
Okay.
Lamed Zion, Lou, go ahead.
All right. Just want to let you know that we only have 2 minutes. I don't know what it's cutting us off a little bit earlier than usual, but we can just go until when it ends, it'll just stop, and I can't restart it for like 5 minutes. So we'll be done for today.
So we'll just be done for the day. So why don't you just read until we get cut off? Well, then we'll stop and we'll start again on Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday I'll be able to know what's going on now. Now I know how, at least today we got to start, and I know how to use it.
Right. Good. Okay. Va'al Elokei Avosav Lo Yavin Baal Hem Das Nashim Va'al Kol Eloach Lo Yavin Ki Al Kol Yis Gadal. He will not give consideration to the God of Israel's ancestors, nor to the desirable among the women, nor will he give consideration to any God, for he will aggrandize himself above everything. So the commentary says, he will not give consideration to the God of Israel's ancestors. The Roman Empire will show no regard for the God of Israel's ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, according to Rashi, or his Constantine's ancestors. He will show no regard for the pagan gods his ancestors worshipped, nor to